Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good welcome. This is Ian Turville, Treasurer of the Legal Marketing Association, and today's Facebook Live broadcast is all about the different facets of technology that are used as part of legal marketing. And I'm joined today by Rachel Shields-Williams, and you are the Business Development and Marketing Manager for Sidley Austin in DC. So thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here.
Great, good. So what is exciting about technology for you at the LMA annual conference?
Well, what's really exciting is to see the amount of technology available, and it's integrated into every program that I've sat in so far today. Yesterday I saw a presentation on Watson and how he may work with legal marketing, and it was really interesting for the realization to come across that artificial intelligence isn't necessarily a threat to our industry, but it's really more of an opportunity because we've been clamoring for technology for so long. Now we have so much information, and the question is, how do we use that information to make better decisions as marketers? And I think AI is really going to be a big part of that.
Well, so that's the big question, right? Will AI come along and displace attorneys, or will it be a complement to attorneys? What's going to happen, do you think?
I think it's going to be a complement to attorneys. Like, had you talked to me yesterday before I sat in on the program about Watson and design thinking, and I'd be like, oh, you know, I think it's a threat. I don't know if it's really going to work. But after listening to the presentations yesterday and talking about analytics today, I really think it's going to be a complementary part that's really going to help us perform better and allow the lawyers to, you know, continue being experts in their legal space, but give them more time and direction on building the relationship, which is so critical to marketing these days.
So in fact, the technology is not displacing the attorney, it's actually allowing them to focus on other things that are perhaps higher value and more human in some respects. We hope.
I think AI is going to allow us to be more human. That is an awkward, weird statement, isn't it?
But well, let's hope it's true. So aside from the analytics, has there been any other technology that you've seen at the conference or that you've been experiencing recently that you think is likely to be quite impactful?
I think it's really amazing the amount of knowledge management programs that are out there now. I recall, and I won't date myself, but when we first started looking at those opportunities, there were only a couple vendors that we could really work with. And now there's so many different vendors that are integrating together for proposal generation, knowledge management, CRM, and the fact that they're all talking to each other. And so I think that that's a really interesting opportunity that we have as marketers over the next few years to really get the numbers and the science behind marketing business development.
So when you say talking with each other, you didn't mean that the vendors are all chatting.
No.
You mean that they're properly integrated through APIs and data sources and stuff like that? Okay. Do you have a very substantial component to your job today that involves technology?
I wish there was more because I love technology.
Yes.
And at a more junior role in my organization, I was much more involved in the technology, but now I act more as a strategic steward to the lawyers, so I'm more of a consumer of the technology, and it helps me coach my lawyers and do my job better.
Okay, so strategic steward, you're guiding the attorneys, and it looks, or it sounds like you don't have the opportunity to touch the technology from day to day, but coming here gives you a chance to understand what's going on.
Exactly. Because I miss technology so much, that's why I volunteer on the Legal Technology Committee and different groups, because it allows me to still stay in touch with something I love, even though it's not a general part of my day-to-day job.
Well, let me just sort of delve a little bit more into that. What is the role of the legal what is the role of the technology committee within the Legal Marketing Association? What sort of things do you spend your time doing?
Well, this year we actually started a new project, which I think is really exciting, and we just had our first publication in strategies, and we're actually reviewing all these different technologies that are out there that you don't need to go in and buy in. However, you know, do you use Google Chat? Do you use Slack? Like, what channels work? And so we're actually using them for our meetings and then writing them up to have it available for our members to be like, this is what worked, here are some of our challenges.
So well, you're using the eat your own dog food approach.
Yeah, I guess, and it tastes delicious.
Well, good. Well, so you're experimenting, you're trying, or prototyping with the tools, and then saying, "This is our experience, and this is what we think you should be doing or not doing."
Exactly, or just a source, because sometimes you wonder, you know, I want to use a video conferencing service, but there's so many different ones. Like, do you use Zoom? Do you use BlueJean? Do you use Google Hangouts? Like, which ones work, and what are some of the barriers to entry with some of them? All of them do have free versions, but they run differently on different platforms, like what's available via mobile device versus your desktop. Does it integrate with your firm computer? And those are kind of questions that you don't want to learn through trial and error, and isn't it great having your peers be like, oh, we actually tried this, and here are our thoughts. And then also trying to get a better understanding of how is the day-to-day, so that's our one initiative this year, and then the second one is how are legal marketers using technology? What's working for them, what's not working, so we can get a better idea of how we as a technology committee can not only help the association, but help our membership better.
So in terms of what's working and what's not working, what are the key trends that you think beyond AI are things people need to pay attention to?
Asking the right questions about analytics. It's wonderful that we have all this data available to us, but the question is, are we asking the right questions with that data? I think one of the interesting opportunities that we'll probably see more of over the next few years of, oh my gosh, now I have all this information, how do I use it and how do I apply it, and how do I teach my lawyers to embrace it? Because if you give them the whole ream of information, it's often overwhelming.
Yes.
And it's not, but also how do you build the relationship that you become the trusted advisor of technology and analytics so you can give them a pared down.
So it really sounds like as a marketer, you have to be concerned about so many different facets. I mean, it's not enough to just know about communications, it's not enough to know about how to build relationships, but you're talking about this sort of third leg that you really need to be concerned with.
Yeah, it was actually interesting today sitting in on a presentation about Mad Men to Math Men, and that analytics is no longer something that's just a nice to have, and it's becoming a must have for people in our industry.
Okay, great. Well, so you're streaming live to billions of Facebook users across the world right now. What else do you want to share today? Is there anything particularly that you've learned that like a great technology hack or some sort of insight that you gained?
It kind of goes back to what I originally started talking to you about Watson. And, you know, I think our natural inclination when something's so new and so fundamentally shifting of how we approach things, our natural instinct, I think, is to see it as a threat.
Yes.
Whereas after learning more about it, I think this is a really great opportunity, and I'm excited to see where this is going to take our industry over the next few years.
That's a fantastic positive note to end our discussion. Thank you so much for joining us for Turtle's Tea Time Talk.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
My pleasure too. Thank you so much. Perfect. Hello and welcome. We're back with Turtle's Tea Time Tech Talk, and our guest right now is Adrian Dayton, who of course is the CEO and founder of Clearview Social, based in Buffalo, New York. So I thought that today's keynote speaker from Yale School of Management was very interesting and actually shared a lot of things that are applicable not just in terms of changing, say, the behavior of attorneys, but even how we go about designing technology. And I was wondering if you could recap for us some of the things that she said about how we should approach the design of technology and its use in law firms.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ian.
Yeah.
And, you know, the speaker today, she talked about how there's kind of two processes we use when we make decisions. We either use the fast process, the gator brain, which she called it, or the slow process, which she called the judge brain, right? Where we're calculating things, right, in our head. And what's interesting is that when people so often think that they're always using the judge brain, they're always making very deliberate decisions, when in fact, the vast majority of the decisions we make are these fast-thinking decisions. So what does that have to do with us in legal marketing? And that is the very, very busy lawyers that we're working with. If we want to influence them to make changes, we've got to make it urgent, we've got to make it fast, and we've got to, I mean, one thing she brought is we've got to make them feel that they're going to lose if they don't take action, right?
Because loss aversion is so much stronger than any sense of what
That's
you have
right.
to gain. Yes,
That's
okay.
right.
Yeah. You design software, you sell software as part of your business. How has that thinking influenced the tools that you offer to the clients that you have?
It's a great question. So when I started with social media, I was just amazed at everything these tools could do. And the first firm I went into, I was like, here's analytics, here's Hootsuite, here's how you shorten links and blog and connect everything together. And it was just a disaster, right? Like they didn't do anything that I taught them.
Yeah.
And then it was like, as time went by, it's like my training got simpler and simpler until I was like, please add a picture to your LinkedIn profile. I just want you to add a picture to your profile. Anyway.
Sounds like you lowered your expectations, but okay.
I also realized, the audience that we were working with, they needed basics.
Yes.
And then we finally came up with Clearview Social, which basically sends them an email and they just click one button to share content, designated content to their own LinkedIn accounts. And it's been a massive success. And it's funny because it's kind of like, sometimes I think we just have this simple product that just does one thing that maybe is small, but those incremental changes can be powerful, right?
Right, right. So great keynote speaker this morning.
Absolutely.
Have you had the chance to view perhaps some of the other technology in the exhibit space or see some of the tech talks that are taking place here at the LMA conference?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of great content here. And it's kind of interesting because you have some tools out there, and I think that in a way are more complicated, right? That they give the lawyers more work to do, or even though they're tools that will help them, it's more complex. But I think what the big trend in legal marketing is towards this term that's been coined, that's not really a term, is decomplexify. Have you heard this one?
I'll look it up later.
But the whole idea is, marketing automation is really about let's take ourselves out of the equation as much as possible, because we're always messing it up or slowing it down or not making sure that there is the same quality every time we deliver something.
Right, right.
And so I don't think most firms have quite nailed how to use automation well, but I see that as a big trend that I think to survive has got to use
so what is the
forward.
outcome of that? I mean, if things are automated, does that mean that the attorneys are taken out of the equation, or what does it mean for their roles?
Well, in a way, the attorneys, their input is more important than ever because they've got to give their input so we can nail the interaction. Because, just give you one example, when a client signs a new engagement letter, with marketing automation, you can have them receive an automated congratulations email on becoming a new client, okay? So that message has got to be sincere, it's got to be well thought out, and you've got to do that in conjunction with the lawyer.
Yeah.
But that's you're going to give a better delivery of service rather than creating something totally new each time. So we're still figuring out how it's all going to work, I think.
Good, good. Well, I really appreciate your time this evening. Thank you so much for sharing some of the content from today's exciting annual conference. And we have a day left, so a lot more yet to learn, I'm sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. All right, so here for our final installment of we're here for our final installment of Turville's Toy Time Tech Time, and I'm joined here today with Adrian Lerson, who is the founder and CEO of JD Supra. Did I get that right?
Co-founder. Aviv is the CEO. I'm VP of Strategic Development.
Oh.
Kind of all kinds of things. Do editorial, product development, awful lot of marketing, but yeah.
Perfect. Good, good. So I'm sure there are many people who are watching who are part of the JD Supra family already. They know full well what it is that you do. But perhaps for those that haven't seen or experienced it before, can you explain what your solution does?
Sure. So for the law firms producing substantive content, thought leadership of any kind, we're the people that deliver the audience in the sense that we take law firm content, law firm thought leadership, and put it in front of our audience. We're in the business of building that audience and letting them come to the content any way that they do online. And this is the age in which all of this is, that people talk about the buyer's journey, the reader's journey. So wherever there's an audience to be built for this type of need to know information, we're delivering it. Email subscriptions, social, mobile, everything. We're content distribution.
Great, good. So you must have numerous clients, many, many readers. What are you finding that those audiences and those targets are asking for in terms of your platform?
Well, that is actually a fascinating question, and And there are a couple of different ways that I would answer it, but I would say that early on in this process, I was talking to somebody when they came on board on the site, and I was very excited. We were a young company, and we had this great new client, and it was at one of these conferences. Okay, I'll tell you, it was Heather Morse. And I went up to her and I said, Heather, it's such a pleasure having your firm on the site. We're going to bring you an even bigger audience than we're bringing you now. And she said, honey, I don't need a bigger audience. I just need the right audience. So for a lot of, we can talk about
words of wisdom as ever from Heather.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the kind of thing that we sort of knew, but it was lovely to hear from a client. And the reason why I say that in answer to your question is that there are a million things, and I could talk endlessly about the data that we mine and the trends that we look at and what they all mean and how they can help grow a practice, how they can help with business decisions, editorial decisions. The thing is that the world is made up of tools and technologies that allow communication to happen. They give everybody the ability to say something, and that's not the same thing as actually having something to say. And in our space, one attorney writing about an extraordinarily esoteric issue, read by one person needing to know about that extraordinarily esoteric question, is as important as 100,000 people reading about Bitcoin. It's just so the agenda, the interaction is set between the professional, the C-level executive, the in-house counsel, the media member needing to know about a complex legal matter, and the person writing it.
It's probably, as you and I would say, a corollary or corollary with that, which is there are so many attorneys out there that think about social media and they have a very negative view of it because they've seen their teenage children, playing with Snapchat or Instagram, and they just discount it. It couldn't possibly be of value. Is there any message that you would convey to someone like that who thinks about social media in a very negative light? How do you turn that attitude around?
I was once having a conversation with an attorney who's a family friend, again, many years ago when JD Super was starting, and they was like, well, what are you doing with this? And I sort of went through this lengthy explanation, and I'm like, okay, I guess sort of, and I was like, no, I got to make this right. I'm going to try again. So lengthy explanation, and they're like, okay, sort of, yeah. And then I said, okay, we make you relevant. And he's like, that's great. I can talk about that forever. So these channels of communication are tools. They're means for people to talk. There's a lot about social. The thing about kids and social is that they are an indicator of what's coming next.
Yes.
So years ago, it became clear to me that my children don't watch television the way I used to watch television. On Thursday at 7, I'm going to watch MASH. Now, actually, their main media consumption is to follow personalities on YouTube who have built their own audiences. They've cut out the middleman.
So we need the attorney that's PewDiePie?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
No, but what we need is for them to understand that these are tools by which we meet an audience. So, you even just sort of take an example that's dead now, but a couple of years ago, MySpace is not really a place for an attorney to go drum up work unless MySpace is filled with the kind of person that they need, like musicians of indie bands looking for representation with contracts. And I've actually met attorneys who've spent time on MySpace because that's where their audience is. So the real simple answer around social media, very simply, is that if it delivers a meaningful audience and you can figure out how to do it, that's where you go. And we've used it substantially to grow our audience on behalf of our attorneys. And what the children are doing, instead of just like sort of ignoring it, realize that it is a sign of what's next. So right now, Snapchat is an extraordinary, like my children are incredibly informed about the world. And 99% of that information they're getting from Snapchat.
Well, one day you're going to have to actually explain to me how Snapchat works, but maybe not,
not today.
I'll
tell you after I get my daughter to explain it to me.
So in terms of things that are also, also next, one of the big themes that we're hearing throughout the LMA activities this year, it's certainly something that's being emphasized at this conference, is artificial intelligence. What do you think people need to know or people need to do in order to get ready for artificial intelligence?
That's a great question. So my partner in crime, the CEO of JD Super, Aviva Kyla, was a business lawyer for many years, practiced for many years. And the filter of what we do is always entirely through her very systematic and thoughtful approach to the world through the eyes of a business attorney. And she, from the beginning, has sort of had this understanding of the complexity of legal matters and legal service, and the fact that they don't necessarily that every situation is a practical application of the law. So artificial intelligence clearly is going to make a massive difference and is spectacularly powerful. It's in its nascent days. We're years away from that, maybe months, maybe, I don't know. But will take everybody closer and closer to a form of automation. But I don't think that a certain aspect of legal service will ever be replaced by machines. Machines will augment the process of making it happen on behalf of the exchange and the need for attorney. So this is a very long-winded way of saying I think that people just need to get hip to what's happening and follow it. But if you're listening to the sessions earlier, one of the things that was very clear too is that not only is it something that's going to affect legal service, it's also going to be a greenfield of new business growth opportunities. So, you know, feedback earlier today, advice earlier today was like, start going to AI conferences, start reading AI Matters. From the point of view of JD Super, we're tracking trends all the time, seeing what reader interest and appetites are. And so, you know, we can tell when fintech is coming, and there it is. We can tell when Bitcoin is coming, and there it is. Cybersecurity. AI is about to explode. I don't need to tell you that, but the data shows it's about to explode. So at the very least, from a business point of view, if people need to start positioning themselves as knowledgeable about it, and also not be afraid of it from a service point of view.
Well, that's an excellent question. I mean, at the risk of being political, we're hearing a lot about jobs in America being displaced through automation. You know, do you think there are jobs in the law industry, the legal industry, that are at risk through AI?
That is a great question, and I think to a certain extent I'm a sort of a cautious optimist when it comes to technology. So just sort of like as a point of reference, I'm not a fan of Uber. I'm not a fan of Uber because Uber's drivers are creating a network that will make them ubiquitous, that will make them irrelevant. Yes. When its trajectory meets with self-driving cars, that's where it's headed. And I know that, you know, I'm not the kind of person who's necessarily going to stop technology, but I don't really participate because I'm just not interested in helping making that happen quickly. I see that. I don't have a read today on a deep understanding of how things are going to change dramatically in that regard. But you hear stories, like I think it was in Japan, of an insurance company that had a particular kind of contract service that took this many human hours to complete, that now AI intelligence tools complete in this amount of time.
Well, but you know, at the risk of sounding cold, the idea that computers are taking over people's positions is not a new one. I mean, there are numerous decision-making tools, some involving predictive analytics, that exist today that are already doing that. I mean, if you go to Progressive, you're logging into their system, they're giving you the price, they're giving you the quote for the insurance based not only on their rules, but everyone else's rules as well. There isn't someone behind there actually using a calculator to do to do those projections. It's a computer. It's happened already.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I also think that generally humans don't like change, right? And people with a successful business have to balance the version of success that exists today against innovation. And in a risk-averse environment that has a particular kind of risk-averse structure to it, innovation is very, very hard to foster and grow and the rest. But it's coming, and there's no choice. It's inescapable.
Well, thank you so much for your conversation today. We really appreciate it. And
thanks for doing
for all our LMA watchers, it's time for the pool party. So let's put our swim trunks on and get out there, shall we?
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Well, this is a special bonus. We actually have a further chit-chat this evening. I'm joined this evening by Guy Alvarez, who is the CEO of Good to Be Social. Glad that you could join us this evening.
Thank you.
Just tell us a little bit about your company. It'd be great for our watchers to know what you do.
Sure. So Good to Be Social is a fully integrated digital marketing agency, and we focus pretty much exclusively on the legal industry.
Yes.
I would say about 80% of our clients are law firms, and then about another 20% are companies that sell into legal, so technology companies, publishers,
right.
litigation finance companies, and others.
So what do you hear your clients asking for or saying about technology? What sort of questions are they posing to you?
Well, I think technology is taking a much, much bigger role now when it comes to marketing, and I think a lot of the questions we're getting now, as opposed to a year ago, are really more about analytics, marketing automation. We're seeing a lot of that. Still a lot of interest in social and how to use social properly. We're seeing a lot of paid social now, and it's really starting to take off.
Yeah.
And obviously content is continues to be a big piece.
So paid social, what do you mean when you talk about paid social? How does that work?
So it's either Facebook advertising or LinkedIn advertising or Twitter advertising.
So boosting Facebook posts, that kind of thing?
Yeah, more than just boosting. I mean, it's really actually advertising, taking out ads, using Facebook's targeting capacity, which is incredible.
Oh yeah, it's quite scary.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
I thought you were talking about me posting, pictures of a dog to my 100,000
No.
Snapchat followers or something. Okay, but
yeah.
All right, and so I know you've had an opportunity to be at the conference.
Sure.
You heard today's keynote speaker, attend a number of sessions, be at the exhibit space. What sort of trends are really grabbing you and exciting you during the course of this conference?
Yeah, well, for me, again, it's I'm really interested in marketing automation, and I sat in on the pre-con session on marketing automation, and I was interested to learn that more and more law firms are now starting to look at it. Because a year ago it was really nowhere. No one was really talking about it. And law firms are still way behind when it comes to marketing automation. A lot of the major accounting firms, consulting firms, and other companies are really using it, but law firms are starting to get there.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. The AI stuff, I listen in. I think it's a lot of hype. I don't think it's where it's going to be right now, especially not the way it impacts marketing.
Yes.
But it's a sexy thing. But I don't really believe we're going to see real impact from AI anytime soon.
Well, I mean, all technologies go through that hype cycle, right? They get hyped up, and then you go into the trough of despair, and eventually people figure out what the right applications might be.
Exactly.
So you're saying that perhaps that trough, that valley of despair, might actually be a long time persisting.
Yeah, I don't think they've really figured out, again, looking at marketing specifically, how does AI affect the marketing role?
Yes.
So we'll see.
So who do you think is best equipped to help apply technology in the marketing context in a law firm? Is it a technologist who learns marketing, or a marketing who learns technology?
That's a great question, and I actually had lunch with one of my clients today, and she asked me sort of the same question. She's the chief marketing officer at a AmLaw 100 firm, and I said it has to be marketing and IT working closely together.
Okay.
And it's marketing's job to make IT understand the business issues and the data that they're trying to extract, and it's IT's job in order to collect that data and make it easy for marketing to present that to the business leaders. So I think it's a real collaboration, and if you see major corporations, that's what you're seeing. It's really a real collaboration between IT and marketing.
Yeah, and for those of our watchers on Facebook, the International Legal Technology Association is represented here at the LMA conference, so they have the opportunity to make some of those connections.
Yeah, no, I
great.
think it's very important.
Do you have any parting advice for our viewers today?
Well, I would say that I think this is going to be finally the year of data when it comes to marketing, and I think that if firms are not really cleaning their data, but also learning how to use analytics to not just gather the data, because I see firms gathering, but then you ask them, well, what do you do with this? Oh, we hand it over, and what happens? Nothing. So it's not just collecting the data; it's collecting it and gleaning some real actionable insights out of the data so that it can affect the way you market or the way you sell. So I would say if you haven't started to look at analytics and data, you really have to, because it's really, it's marketing with numbers and with data rather than marketing on a gut feeling, right? And it's the best way to actually be able to have a seat at the table as a marketer is to tell the business leaders, listen, this is what we're seeing, and numbers don't lie. So I think that's very important.
Well, everyone can have an opinion, but if you have the data on your side,
exactly,
you're far better off.
Exactly
well,
right.
Guy, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. All right.